But I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you.
God.
Eat shit. How's that? Eat shit. Eat shit. Eat shit.
Smug smile.
Definitely eat shit.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
You can't handle the truth!
Episode 45, Your List Sucks, live. Coronavirus has stopped a lot of things, but it has not stopped my hate for people sending me lists and me telling them that they're wrong. This should be a fun episode. Best superhero movies. We haven't talked about it yet really on the show. We did Marvels at one point. Currently, someone's playing a DC game right now. It's really a weird time. But I'm going to go around the panel. I'm going to ask everybody what I normally ask them. Do you think your list is going to be the best or the worst tonight? I'm going to start with Koho. Koho, I kind of asked you to be on this episode just because there were some weird choices out there, and I knew that you would have the hot takes that I needed.
Yeah.
So, Koho, do you think you have the worst or best takes tonight?
I definitely came to this list with a very different. I embrace superhero over comic book for sure, and I did focus a lot more on favorites because I think my favorites are better than some of the ones that people call best. Yeah, I came with a pretty solid list that I'm sure I'm coming back with.
Next, if Arkham City has been put to rest for a second, Robert, do you think that you will have the best list or the worst list? Because you are, of all people, the best with geek knowledge. So will you have the best list?
I think I have the coldest takes. I think my ranking might be a little bit different than some people expect or than some people would have. But I think like my 10, I think a majority of people, if you polled 1,000 people, I think 90% of the people would have at least 7 of my movies on their 10. I think I have the coldest list itself. Maybe not rankings, but the list itself, I think is.
So you're saying I shouldn't have put you on the show? Fair enough.
No, what I'm saying is I think I'm here to win, and I think I have the best list.
Nazario.
Hey.
You, again, are one of the older ones of the panel of this community, so you have lived movies longer than some other people. So do you think you'll have the best list because they have matured longer, or do you think you're going to have the worst takes because I'm not quite as old as you? I'm getting there.
Well, given the fact that every time I come to this show, I have the last place, I think it's going to be expected by now. But I did try not to make the whole thing Batman or the whole thing MCU because that's no fun. So I tried to put some limits on myself, try to pick here and there. Of course, I'm going to have more than one of something, but I think overall I'm pretty satisfied with it. You probably won't be though.
All right, and Jim. As soon as Jim commented on it, I messaged and said, "Can you be available Wednesday?" He said, "Yes, I can." Jim, worst list, best list. What do you think?
Oh, I have a feeling that I will have a somewhat controversial pick at some point. So that could contribute to best list, or it could contribute to worst list. It'll contribute to worst list, but at least I want to have like 6 Batman movies, like Nazario. Also Nazario has faded Legos, so fuck Nazario. He's coming for last.
Well, I see it in the chat. I've seen many people ask, they're like, are you going to do a surprise list because you just hate people? Honestly, I don't like that idea, but honestly, I love that idea. I've brought 4 people here without letting them know in on the plan. This isn't best superhero movies. This is worst superhero movies. No, you can't change your list. No, you can't do anything. You have to defend the list that you submitted and tell me why those movies are actually the worst superhero movies of all time. You've all been welcomed into April Fools. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm changing my list. You can't change your list. I have backup replacements. If you do not play along, I will kick you out and bring somebody else in because I knew this isn't good. I was tired of just doing this. Oh, okay, there's Infinity War. It's the best of all time. Now tell me why Infinity War sucks. I want to hear what you have to say. So, Koho, give us your 10, 9, 8 of what the worst superhero movie of all time is.
Well, Scully called that.
You son of a bitch.
Koho, you...
Okay, my number 10's The Incredibles.
Wow. Volte Cotton.
My
Anybody else
number
have it
9.
higher?
My number 9
my
is Sky
God.
High.
That movie does.
That's accurate.
My number 8 is Deadpool. I don't hear any yikesing. Anyone yikes any of these?
I am going to nope. Just in 10-9-8, right?
10-9-8.
No, I have Incredibles, but in the bottom
your
three.
whole list. If
I
you
have
have it in your list at all, you yank it.
No. It's just in the bottom
No.
three, right?
Yeah. Is it in your same bottom to 3?
Yes, I have Incredibles at number 8.
Okay, so you, Cole will talk about it, then you will talk about it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So I think Brad Bird doesn't do anything really unique with The Incredibles. He just kind of tries to do a Fantastic Four ripoff, but also make it edgy by being like, "Oh, superheroes are illegal." What? Like, I think like Mr. Incredible kind of sucks as a character. He's just kind of a cheating husband for most of the movie, and he's kind of a piece of shit. Dash is annoying. Violet is a stereotypical emo kid. Jack is the best character because he doesn't say shit. Everyone in the cast is fucking annoying. And this is, I think, pretty consistently the worst.
Go quick.
Sorry, this is easily the worst one. Go ahead, Robert.
So, I mean, for everything that Koho said, like, it really is just not original. There's also no stakes. Like with other Pixar movies, you really do get stakes and you actually feel the emotion. Like you think of just a year before Finding Nemo, another family type movie, like where it has that family dynamic, but there's stakes in that movie. You know, is he going to save Nemo? That kind of stuff. There's no stakes in this movie. There's no real heart at all, unfortunately. Like there's moments where, you know, you think there could have been something there and then it gets ruined by Dash going, "Oh, we're dead! We're dead!" Like that's just one of the most annoying characters in the world. Syndrome is also a really stereotypical villain. Like, oh, it's somebody that he hurt in his past. Like, let's throw that. Like, it's just not original.
All right. Remember, this is honorable mentions. If you brought your half, you don't get to talk forever. I will shut you up. All right. Go to your 9. Tell us why. What was it?
Sky High. So
terrible.
Sky High is a really cheesy Disney 2000s parody movie. Kurt Russell's overacting the hell out of it. Michael Arengano is the most unlikable lead. The best person in the movie is Daniel Panabaker. That's only because she's only slightly not annoying. The Paper Lantern's dumb. Sky High is dumb. Fuck this movie.
Why do you gotta go up to the Paper Lantern? Like
pressure to Daniel Panabaker right here.
Can you go 8?
My number 8's Deadpool. So, this is like every edgy 13-year-old's wet dream. This is like
you know that because you're still an edgy 13-year-old.
So, like Ryan Reynolds is just kind of he won a bunch of accolades for just cussing over 100 times and saying the F word in a red rubber suit, and there's just a lot of blood and guts and making a lot of dick jokes. That was a Freudian slip right there. Yeah, it's way overrated. The script's not even good. Deadpool sucks.
Okay, so just to break down at 10, I think that's a leap. I think that's a flippin' leap to say it's one of the worst superhero movies. I actually like The Incredibles a lot. I think Incredibles is original, fun. The sequel didn't live up to it, but that first one is easily top 10 best. So I think you're really confused on what the topic was. Your number 9, couldn't agree more. Basically a Disney original movie, DCOM if I've ever seen one. It is not great. You're accurate. Better movie would be that bus driver just never showed up to the school at all. Like that, I just don't like that movie at all. Okay, and number 8, thank you so much for finally agreeing. Deadpool is one of the worst movies. It's
Zach Ford is so happy.
It is, yeah. People think it's like, oh, so cutting edge. You're right. 13-year-olds love it. Everybody else beyond that, grow up. It's terrible. All right, so we're going to go over to, since we'll keep it the order. Robert already gave us 8. I like to see what Robert's 10 and 9 are. So can you let me know?
Thing. Yeah, I'll just run them down real quick. My number 10 is Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Yeah. My number 9 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yikes.
Yikes from me, my guy.
You're on people's list. Oh my.
Okay, I'll be very excited to hear your arguments when we get there. And my number 8 was Incredibles.
Okay, so tell me why Spider-Man 2
Sure,
one of
so
the
people only love this because of nostalgia. It looks terrible. If you rewatch this in 2020, it looks awful. The visual effects are the worst. Tobey Maguire is he's got the most punchable face in the world. He's so unlikable. MJ truly is one of the worst love interests in any superhero movie ever. Not only is their chemistry the worst, but she is engaged to a different man and then leaves him at the altar for some guy who leaves her 2 seconds later. Like, truly, this movie is unbearable. MJ is unbearable as a character. Mr. Ditkovich is a really racist character. And yeah, it does not hold up at all. It's got stupid songs in it. Well, Paul's got some hot takes. Sorry. I mean, yeah, Paul, you're absolutely right. Alfred Molina, Doc Ock is not a very good villain. It's not portrayed well. It's not portrayed well.
All right, so let me tell you, the worst superhero movies of all time. You're going to put Spider-Man 2. Somebody on this call needs to stay off the Multiplex account and get out of the chat when you can't talk, or don't show it on the screen.
Koho, for sure.
I think that obviously, I don't agree with you. I think this movie still holds up really well. I think the villain is amazing. It has super stakes. Yes, guess what? Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst can act the best, but I think they are quality in this movie, especially with a great villain. So, don't know. I don't agree with you, and we'll talk about that Spider-Verse take later. Apparently, people think it's way worse. We're gonna go to.
It's pretty bad.
We're going to go to Nazario next. I'm really curious. I saw in the chat 90 minutes of crying. We'll see how long it lasts. 10-9-8, sir. Let me hear it.
My number 10 is Iron Man 3.
Actual yikes, by the way.
That's accurate, okay?
Not on my list, but like just
know your place. 7, you get to talk.
My number 9. I keep going, right?
Yeah.
So my number 9 is Unbreakable.
Oh, okay.
And my number 8 is the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
You're doing quite well at this for a reversal of lists.
I'd like to change my vote. Nazario will have the best list.
Nazario will have the best list.
All right, so tell me why these movies suck.
Number 10, Iron Man 3. I mean, this movie is just fucking lame. It's not like I had a personal relation to this movie. Like, I shared an anxiety problem when this movie was released, and I identified with it. None of that crap. This movie makes no fucking sense. Where's the real Mandarin Man? I wanted to see the 10 rings, not some actor just faking it. And Iron Man, I cannot get out of my suit. That's just lame, man. You want to see Iron Man fighting great villains, and who's fighting like an actor? And then this guy who said like I'm the Mandarin just because he has an extremist power. It ruined a perfect trilogy. It's even worse than 2.
Tell us about Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. I mean, it's M. Night Shyamalan, man. How much do you need? It's a guy who made his name just doing twists. And then he decides, I'm going to make the twist that is going to be a secret superhero movie. And people are going to be so surprised when I get this lame-ass character played by Bruce Willis, whose power is that he cannot be broken. And then, being an obvious man as he is, like, who would be his nemesis? Oh, the guy that always breaks. I was shocked. The thing that shocked me the most was that I actually paid to watch this movie in theaters. It's ridiculous.
And what's your 8? I'm really curious why one of this one's the worst.
Dude, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are my childhood favorite heroes. I was so excited when I was like 10 years old when this movie came out, and I just got like to the movie theater so excited, ready to be amazed with what I saw. And what do I see? Freaking puppets. Who does Jim Henson think he is? Where was the effects? I mean, he put puppets where you could see the guys instead of the mask. It was unbelievable for a second. And make the story about some stupid ninjas like robbing TVs from from people in the streets. Where is Krang, Bebop, Rocksteady? I wanted Aliens, Dimension X, the Technodrome. Thank God that Bay finally gave us that with the sequel to his movie. So it just took 30 fucking years.
Oh right. Whew, this is
point out Nazario has a Sam Rockwell movie, and it wasn't an Iron Man one.
okay. Iron Man 3. You're doing quite well. I think this is one of the lower halves of the MCU. I don't think it lives up to everybody's. This is always the defense. I don't like it for an MCU movie, but a Shane Black movie, it's really good. That's a cop-out answer. It's not that great. And it literally has no stakes throughout the rest of the MCU. It does nothing for the rest of the movies. It's a one-off and we're gone. Your number 2, Unbreakable. I'm not a big fan of it. I just don't think it's like highly regarded as one of the best superhero movies. I don't think it's considered one of the worst, so I think you're a little confused. And then number 8, man, if you couldn't hit the nail on the head, even I think it should be higher. I think it should be higher on your list. I'm confused why it wasn't like 1, 2, 3. But worse, yeah, this, you're right. Jim Henson apparently doesn't know what he's doing because this was a terrible, terrible idea to put on screen. And it's definitely not aged well. Thank you, Michael Bay, for giving us the one we actually deserved. Shut up, Paul. Gosh, no one invited you. All right, Jim.
Oh, my turn. I will be starting off with my number 10, Furious 7.
You're
Do I
such
have
a
a
cheater.
yikes here?
That was legit on his list.
You're such a cheater.
Furious 7. Anybody?
What's your 9?
My number 9 is Logan.
Yikes.
You guys suck. And then my number 8 is Civil War. Captain America Civil War.
No one has
Great.
it
What
on
are you
that.
talking about?
So Furious 7 has the worst way of showing off their superhuman abilities. First of all, Dominic Toretto is straight up Batman in Fast 4. And then Superman, Dwayne The Rock Johnson comes in here. And he literally gets blown up by a bomb and falls out of like 6 stories, and Elena lands on him. And then like a week and a half later, he's like, Daddy's got to go to work. And then he flexes off the cast. And then also there's a scene where Dominic Toretto, in his Dominic Toretto voice, goes, "It's about when you're fighting on the street, just the street wins." And then he literally stomps on a parking garage and it falls apart. He is clearly a superhero. The movie before, he like jumps across to catch Letty going 90 miles an hour and then doesn't disintegrate when it hits a windshield. So he's clearly a superhero. But yeah, this movie's pretty awful. And then you had to like have Paul Walker dies in the middle of it, and Dom is fat. This is Fat Diesel. And then Paul Walker dies in the middle of it. So it just, it just ruins the whole movie.
Okay.
I got on a little tangent there.
Well, all right. What's your 9?
My 9 was Logan, which got yikes. And my 8 is Civil War, which is the 3rd best of the Captain America movies. First Avenger has a lot of, character building stuff. And then Winter Soldier is just the masterpiece that it is. But Civil War is just actually Avengers 2.5 the cop-out, because Age of Ultron is so terrible that we had to like try and make up for it with this movie. Then the only good redeeming part is Black Panther, who this is the best Black Panther movie, but other than that, it's just really terrible. And then Tony Stark and the Avengers saved the world in the terrible movie Age of Ultron, and then this lady comes up and is like, but one of the people that died in it was my son, and he was black, so you should feel bad. And then Tony Stark feels bad, and that's the plot of the movie.
All right.
I forgot why we didn't bring Jim Green in here. This sucks.
Okay. So you're 10. There's a lot of movies you could have picked in the Fast. There are a lot of movies you could pick in Fast and the Furious. I think 4, he is Batman. He literally dissects how the car flips over and everything. 6, they drive on a aircraft carrier that's 38 miles long and does incredible. But yes, this is the one where he does crack ground with a correct. I can't even talk. Jim Rose screwed up. You should stop talking. But this is one of the worst superhero movies. I will stand by it. That is a very good pick. Next one is Captain America: Civil War. I have been on record. I don't like this movie. This is an airport scene and a last fight scene, and the rest of the movies make no sense. Like, we got to see 20 minutes of Scarlet Witch and Vision making pepper cash or whatever it's called in their flipping apartments. Zemo gets everybody into a room to watch the VCS tape of Tony Stark's parents getting killed. He still doesn't have email. There's only one great moment that's actually out of those two scenes, and it's what Black Panther says to Zemo right before it. I like that scene, but worst one? I don't know if it's the worst, but it definitely wouldn't be in my top 10 best. So anybody that would put it there, stupidity. Exactly. All right. The gloves are off, everybody. 7 through 4. Here we go. We're going to start with Koho. What is the 7th worst superhero movie of all time?
My number 7's Watchmen.
Yikes.
Okay.
I couldn't agree more. That's beautiful.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry, did anybody leak you the idea that I had before? Okay, you're just doing really well. Here we go.
My number 6 is a Black Panther.
Yikes, my guy.
Fuck.
You said it was the worst Black Panther movie.
My number 5 is Avengers Endgame.
Yikes, my guy.
Number 4 is the Lego Batman movie.
Nazario.
I'm sorry.
Nazario.
I'm sorry. Okay. What we've got here is the worst animated superhero, well, second worst animated superhero movie of all time, the worst based on a comic book, because all this is it's a lot of meta humor. And if you saw from earlier in my list, Deadpool has that, and I hate that. The Lego Batman movie is just references to better Batman movies without doing anything interesting and smart on its own in its story. There's no real story or emotion to it. It's just Lego toys in Batman-themed costumes running around making jokes about Batman. So it's just more of the Lego movie, but it's Batman skinned. So kind of sucks.
Yeah, so when this movie came out, I remember the conversations happening in the film community that take away Bale as Batman. Is this the second? Is this better than all the rest as a actual Batman movie? I thought everybody was insane when I watched it, and I agree with that take. I think it's real stupid. I think this movie is bad. I don't like any of the humor. I do not like Zach Galifianakis as the Joker. I honestly think Lego itself should stop making movies because I think they're terrible. I honestly do. That's a world that it seems like cool, but let's leave it to Minecraft and stuff like that, building blocks. Like, I don't want to see an actual movie of it. I don't think it's interesting enough to carry on. And all the different villains that they had in this movie were real dumb. Nazario, Jim, and Robert didn't have this as one of the worst movies of all time. Do you think you missed a big one, or what's going on?
I haven't seen it.
I like this movie quite a bit. I think the vocal performances in this movie are actually really funny. I think Ralph Fiennes as Alfred is really, really great. Rosario Dawson as Barbara Gordon is really, really great. Zach Galifianakis is honestly really funny. This is low-key one of the best Jokers in a Batman movie. This movie is a lot of fun. It's one that you can just throw on and have a great time with. So Koho having it as number 4 worst superhero movie of all time, I think is wild.
Yeah, child.
But Incredibles, terrible. Got it, cool.
It's pretty bad,
This movie was in my honorable mentions because...
Was this your number 11, Nazario?
This movie, it was my number 11, I swear. Because this movie does not respect the Batman at all. It introduces the character and the world and its rich history. And then it brings so many of the deep lore characters of the villains of Batman. And then what does it make? One joke, put them all in jail, and change them all by bringing in like Sauron and the Wicked Witch of the West and crap that doesn't have anything to do with Batman. What the hell were they thinking? Piece of shit.
Aren't you supposed to be arguing why it's a good movie?
It's a
it's his 11.
No.
It's his 11.
Oh, okay. It's his 11. Sorry.
You don't have to praise these movies that they're not on your list. You may have just missed or thought, it's just one of the worst. Okay, so Can can we get the next one?
Yeah, that was my 4, so we're moving.
Oh, that was your 4. Okay, so Roberto.
Sure. So Jim already brought up Captain America. My number 7 is another Captain America movie, and it's Captain America 1990. This movie is.
Does that say Winter Soldier?
Yeah, Winter Soldier.
Yikes.
Okay.
What's your 6?
My number 6 is Logan.
Yikes.
1 second.
Further?
Still yikes.
That was my 9.
Oh, it's my 7.
Okay, you guys can all talk about it right here, Robert.
And it's not yikes, yeah. Okay. So the Winter Soldier is the first Captain America movie, the first Avenger, is fantastic. It really is. It's a period piece, and it's a great action movie, and the cast is really good. Like, it is very uniquely Captain America, and that's why you love it. You put him in the modern day, it just doesn't work. Because then he's spending the entire movie being like, huh, I don't understand what you're talking about because I'm from the 1940s. And that's the entire movie, and it's terrible. Like, it seriously is. Robert Redford is a terrible villain. The MCU has a villain problem. This is one of the most glaring, worst ones because it's like a big twist that he's supposed to be the villain, but you see it coming from his first scene in the movie. It's not a twist. It's not foreseen. The relationship between Romanov and Captain America is
Chris Evans.
I almost said Chris, yeah. And Steve is just mind-bogglingly stupid. Like, you take these characters that already had no chemistry in the MCU and you put them together and you hope it works, and it just doesn't.
Go ahead.
I have it at 6 too.
Okay.
It's the Winter Snoozer.
The Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
No one had this higher like in their top 3, did they?
No.
Okay, then go ahead. Yeah, rip it apart.
This movie starts from an unbelievable premise. They expect us to forget that Bucky Barnes fell from a train on the top of a mountain, and all he lost was his arm, and he's supposed to be alive and well, like working and killing people like 50 years later, not even aging. So that makes no sense. That took me out of the movie straight away. And also, this movie is confused. It wants to be like a spy movie from the 70s. We already have Bond, and at least Bond picks up chicks. Captain America doesn't do anything like it. So it just got long and boring. And after Avengers, man, where I just saw aliens coming and conquering the earth, I was expecting Thanos. And what I got was Robert Redford. Robert's right on that one. It's like, whatever.
Steve pulls 2 generations of Carter ass. What are you talking about, Nazario?
Okay.
Can I say over the
No, you gave your moment. I think you guys are insane, honestly. I think Winter Soldier is fantastic. Jim, you broke the internet twice today. I need you to stop it. No, I think this movie is fantastic. I think this is one of the most refreshing movies of the MCU that's not like all the rest. So I was able to have some fun. Gosh, I think most people are regretting that they devoted 2 hours to the show tonight. Jim and Kaleb, you didn't have this on your list, so do you consider this a good movie, or did you just miss your list?
I had the worst Captain America movie, which is Avengers 2.5 already, so I only needed 1 Captain America movie.
Steve Rogers pulls in 2 generations. I can't fucking handle it. I don't care for this movie as much as everyone, but it's still a better movie than this list deserves, if not for the fact that Paul is being an asshole to the chat. So fuck you, Paul. Sure, it's a 70s spy thriller. What did you expect it was going to be? Captain America, generic superhero movie number 3? Fuck you. It's literally taking a note from the 70s political thrillers, and it does it pretty well. You want every superhero movie to be the same? Go watch Spider-Man 2.
Why are you coming at Paul like that?
Because he's being a dick.
You're right. Spider-Man 2 is a pretty bad movie. I wonder why it's not on your list.
Okay, let's go. Go to your next one, Robert.
My next one was Logan. Does somebody have it in their top 3?
I have it on my 9. It's my 9.
It's Missouri 7, and I don't have it. So
Okay, so you
so we
all
can
talk about it right now.
Sure. Give me a second.
Would you like to pass it to someone else?
No, I can go. Logan is a waste of Jackman's final performance in the character. It seriously is. It is a waste of these characters. We saw the trailers. We thought it was going to be a unique story. We thought it was going to be this perfect send-off, this perfect swan song for both Stewart and Jackman, and it was anything but. It was, again, a total lack of anything imaginative. It was basically what we saw in the Wolverine, just done older and not in Japan. Okay? It was a new Americanized version of the Wolverine, and it sucked. Like, the relationship between Laura and Logan is ultimately unbelievable. She pretends to be mute the whole movie just to ignore him. Like, all that's doing is enforcing stereotypes of people without English as their first language, and that's not okay to be doing in a wide release film. It's just not okay. Stewart is terrible in this movie. This is just a waste of the Professor X character. He's just running around talking about the new meal from Taco Bell. I forget what he calls it. The quesalupa, that's what he calls it. He just is driving around talking about the new quesalupa. It's just showing him, he's old and senile now, instead of actually doing something unique and innovative with the characters.
Can I go next, Nazario?
Go ahead.
Remember when the bad guy was corn? The bad guy in this movie is literally corn. And then they kind of like leave it. They kind of leave it. I'm sorry. They kind of leave it kind of like where, I mean, you get that feeling like, oh, look, it'll continue. So you don't have to feel as bad because Jackman's gone. Like, I loved the X-Men movie since I was like 10 years old. And then this is like Jackman's last one. And then it's like, oh, she calls him daddy at the end. Am I supposed to be sad? No, this movie sucks. I don't like. Kind of like what Robert was saying. She's like mute for half the movie for no reason. And then it's like, oh, look, she's been talking to him for 13 minutes. Now feels sad when he dies and she calls him dad. And it's like,
Same thing with Deadpool where it's forced gore just for the sake of gore. Like, it's not actually used in any creative or necessary way for the plot at all.
I mean, I just have one question. For anybody who knows about the decisions made behind this movie, where the hell was Liev Schreiber?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows that Sabretooth is the guy that fights the Wolverine. He was great in Origins, in Wolverine, Origins Wolverine, and then for some reason they neglected to bring him back in the Wolverine because I was like, okay, he went to Japan, doesn't really matter. But now you're ending the trilogy, and you do not bring even Sabretooth back. It was such a freaking. This script was so weak that we literally watch people freeze in the screen for like 20 minutes of the runtime, and that's kind of like a gimmick from the movie.
And that's supposed to be memorable.
They couldn't even get the guy who played Caliban to come back for this. They had to recast him. That gives you an idea of the quality we're talking about here.
Okay, guys, I think you're insane. I honestly think this is one of the best superhero movies. I don't like it as much as most because it's not an X-Men movie. It's more like the solo of Wolverine on his last ride. But literally, it's one of the best modern westerns that we have. I think it's beautiful. I think you all three are insane. It's going to affect on your list. Jim gets some bonus points for
the villain is corn.
The villain is corn. Give him credit. But let's go to your next one, Robert.
My 5 was
Wait, Koho. Why isn't Logan on your list?
Because like Paul says, it's just a Shane knockoff. But like, I actually like the knockoffs of old movies that with superheroes in them. So I think Logan's fine. It's not top 10 worst ones. It's not top 10 best ones. It's just right in the middle.
Okay. Next one.
My 5?
Yeah.
My 5 was Avengers Endgame.
I never said that.
Yikes. Yikes, my guy.
Yikes. Okay, so that's higher than 5 for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm done, right?
4.
Oh, my 4. My 4 is Dark Knight.
Have you been here before?
That's a yikes for me, dog.
You guys have the Dark Knight as one of the Okay.
My 4 is The Dark Knight as well.
Well, I hope Chris Woodburn doesn't find you. Okay, we're gonna move on to Nazario. Give us 7 through 4.
We already said 7, Logan. Knowledge Driver. Yikes. Number 6 was Captain America: The Winter Soldier. We did that already. My number 5 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's my
yikes.
Oof. Wow.
7.
And my number 4 was Infinity War.
Yikes.
Sorry.
Yikes. Okay, guys, I think you really misunderstood this episode.
Does Nazario
Jim.
have anything that didn't get yikes?
Nope. Give us
Okay,
your 7.
so 7 is Spider-Verse, which is yikes. Number 6 is Spider-Man 2002, the original Tobey.
Okay.
So Robert has the awesome sequel on his list, but me, I have the really terrible beginning one. That is best known for an upside down kiss because the rest of the whole romance is terrible. And then the infamous line by Macho Man Randy Savage, "Bonesaw is ready." That is the other most memorable part of this movie. And then the bully is Joe Manganiello in this, who is just terrible and looks like Joe Manganiello without a beard, which is always just awful. And then Tobey Maguire is not believable as Peter Parker anyway. He's less believable as Peter Parker than hot hipster guy Andrew Garfield, who pulls Emma Stone. So yeah, Tobey's just awful in this. The only good part is Willem Dafoe is pretty cool in it, but you also have James Franco, who's pretty terrible, and he kind of looks sad sometimes because he's James Franco. But yeah, this movie is pretty terrible. It has a good villain, but Tobey Maguire is just terrible. He really hits Spider-Man 2.
I've never heard. I've heard terrible from you, like I hear themes from Robert. That was used a lot. I think Spider-Man does not age the best, obviously. I still think Willem Dafoe is one of the best villains ever in comic book movies. I think he's fantastic. His lines are campy and weird, but guess what? That movie is supposed to be campy, and it's perfect in that regards. I agree the love interest and Tobey are not the greatest of all time, but I actually I like them. So I disagree with that one. You 3 didn't have Spider-Man. 1 had Spider-Man 2, so the sequel's worse. Tell me why Spider-Man 1 is, I guess, honestly, it's a good movie, somewhat, because it didn't make your list. So
you hit it right in the head, man. Willem Dafoe is the perfect Green Goblin. He is the character on the screen on every single second. And the only weakness he has, is that he couldn't really get that Green Goblin smile going exactly right, and they just put up a mask on it and perfection. He doesn't need anybody else for that movie. I don't know why he put it in the worst list.
He smiles like this.
Go ahead,
Pretty weird.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself. Might be the greatest line put to screen. And that's because Willem Dafoe is a god among men, especially in the role of Green Goblin. And you honestly have trash takes if you think Tobey Maguire is a piece of sandpaper. That man is the greatest Spider-Man we've ever seen on film to this day. He exudes charisma. He exudes comedic timing. Kristen Dunst is phenomenal. So I have no idea what you're saying right now.
Did you just rewatch these, Koho?
I did watch them earlier.
That makes sense because you changed your opinion pretty quick on them. So I kind of that's interesting.
I'll really quickly. I agree with everything people have said about Willem Dafoe. This is also arguably the most quotable superhero movie of all time. Every single quote is memorable. From me and MJ, we're gonna have a hell of a time. This movie is just endlessly quotable. It's also one of the movies that made me fall in love with superhero movies. There's a lot of nostalgia there. I adore this movie, every second of it. The scenes where Dafoe is talking to himself in the mirror are electric. Genuinely, top 5 superhero movie scenes of all time. Just so to say this is the 6th worst superhero movie of all time, you're off your rocker, Jim.
Of course you would say that, The Spider.
I want to add a little
Hey, don't knock the upside down kiss till you try it.
I want to add a little something. As a person that was raised a Catholic, there was nothing more chilling than when the Green Goblin interrupted the prayer of Anne, of Peter's Anne.
Finish it.
He makes her finish it. Oh man, that touched me.
You gotta love that Sky Daddy.
Yeah. Newberry's on fucking fire tonight, ladies and gentlemen. God.
All right. Where are we at?
Oh God.
I have my number 5.
Jim's got to keep going.
Oh, I was really fired up from that. My number 5 is X-Men: Days of Futures Past, which
You're high.
This is there any yikes here? I gotta check. But the plot is pretty terrible. You have is it Kitty Pryde? It's forgettable. She sends Logan's memories back in time, just his memories, so he can wake up and kill some dudes. And then he goes and gets to see the young versions of Charles and Magneto, whose name is Eric, because I didn't forget that. But yeah, this is the kind of they're okay, I guess, but when you have Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen playing the older versions in the same movie, it kind of just makes their shine go down. And then also the villain is really terrible. Peter Dinklage in a movie, yikes that, because he's terrible in anything that isn't Game of Thrones or Tiptoes. So yeah, it just overall problem. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because even the ending, you get to see Logan wake back up in the future that's now all fixed and stuff. But also at the same time, right after that, they're like, oh, but look, this William Stryker isn't really William Stryker. It's Mystique. But for some reason, he still ends up in the Weapon X project in the next movie with Sophie Turner. That is amazing.
I think you're completely insane.
A little bit.
I think this movie is... Yeah, I'll say it. I think it's the best X-Men movie. I think this is the best X-Men movie. Say what you want about the timeline and everything messed up. I still love every bit of it. I like X2, but I think this one's just got better effects, better story. I really enjoy Fassbender and Logan kind of sharing the screen on this one. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think you're insane for saying it's one of the worst of all time. 3 of you didn't have this on your worst, so you means you're correct. I mean, if it was best and you didn't have it, that'd be freaking insane. Tell me why.
It's the performances for me, and there are 2 scenes in particular I'm going to point to. Fassbender when they're on the plane, 1973, and he stands up and it's right after they break him out of prison, and he starts listing off mutants that have been killed. That's one of honestly these 2 performances in this movie. Both of them are top 10 superhero movie performances. Yeah, he's like, what about this person and this person and this person, and the plane starting to Fassbender is Magneto. I love Ian McKellen. Fassbender as Magneto is the best villain superhero performance ever. And then as for McAvoy, the scene where he's talking to Logan and you see such a different Professor X when he is like, I don't want your future. I don't want to read your mind. I don't want my powers. Sorry, Paul. He is just a heartbroken and a physically broken Professor X. That is a side of the character that we've never seen. We haven't seen since then. And that's it's such a unique take on all the characters.
I'll just say the best line in any superhero movie. I believe we came to you, about 10 years ago, and I'm gonna say to you what you said to us then. Fuck off. One of the best lines in superhero movies ever.
That's me to you guys right now saying this movie is good.
This movie, Jim is not wrong. This movie is not very good. It was also on my honorable mentions. I think it was around 12 or 13. And I think I think it's very pandering to the audience. It was very, very obviously how Fox was trying to steal fans from the MCU, putting Quicksilver in this movie. An inferior version of Quicksilver that doesn't have to do anything with any overarching arc, and they just wanted to confuse people to make them come. And secondly, still, where was Liev Schreiber? No Sabretooth here either. And they go on the past and they go to the future, and you cannot see him anywhere.
This isn't a Logan movie, Nazario. Shut up.
It's still the same universe, Jim. You cannot leave one of the most important characters of
You
the
can't leave Driver out of the
story and call it one of the best ones. It just
Also, you were trashing the Weapon X stuff, which is more a fault of Apocalypse than Days of Future Past. Actually, when Mystique ends this movie as Stryker, I think it's a really interesting moment when you're like, oh, what is she gonna do with Wolverine? Like, that's actually a really, really good moment in this movie itself.
Shut up. You already had your time. Could have brought it all up then. Lucas, you're actually incorrect when you say First Class. I like a lot about First Class, but you don't have Jennifer Lawrence going, you should be called Magneto and you should be Professor X. Okay, cool. That would be I like that movie, but it's not better than this movie. And Jim is
in Hunger Games, Cody.
Give us your 4.
Oh, my 4 is The Dark Knight. That got yikes.
Oh, okay. The Dark Knight. What the hell?
That's also my 4.
What is it? Just real quick, we don't have to.
Koho yikes it higher.
We don't have to get into it right now. We don't have to have this discussion. But is The Dark Knight so low on everybody's list because it's not a really good Batman movie? It's more of a Joker movie. We'll get to that in a second. Give us your 3, Caleb.
I've waited my whole life
Jesus
for a good Superman movie, and DreamWorks promised me not only the best Superman movie, but the best Lex Luthor movie, and then fucking fed me shit and called it couscous. It's called Megamind. This movie is the most embarrassing attempt to do a Superman Lex Luthor sort of commentary on that relationship, and it's just the jokes don't land. Will Ferrell's obnoxious. Jonah Hill is the most unintimidating villain I've ever seen. None of the bits land. The twist halfway through the movie is stupid. The fact that the soundtrack is just a bunch of 80s songs that all have something to do with hell or being bad and edgy. Lovely. Thank you. I get the point. Megamind is not good. It's not a good movie.
Yo, for real though, yikes. Actually, this is on this list.
Okay.
The fact he had it at 3 too.
Yeah. So okay. So we'll do best superheroes at one point. Megamind at 3 of worst is. I wouldn't say it's the worst. I just say it's way hyped, and it's really weird. Spider-Man really good. Megamind shit. Did you watch this one recently and just have a change of heart? But I just don't think it's great. I just wouldn't even put it on the list. It's like one of those middle of the roads. I think I gave it like 3 stars when I watched it this year, 2.5. It's not great, but it's not like the most. It's not Man of Steel. It's not Suicide Squad. It's not BVS. Not seeing any of these movies on there, so this is just upsetting. You guys, Megamind.
Look,
Quality, I guess.
If I was going to watch a lot of stuff about Galaxy Brain, this would not be my go-to. I'm not going to lie. This movie is, like you said, Echo, this movie's fine. Like, Will Ferrell, it's just him mispronouncing stuff the whole movie, like, Olo, and, like, that's the humor. And some of it lands and some of it doesn't. And the visuals are good. Like, it's a fine movie. To call it your 3rd worst superhero movie of all time is ridiculous.
I agree, Robert, because if I was making a list for for best superhero movies of all time, this is my number 3 easily. Very easily my number 3 best superhero movie of all time.
I'm just going to say, man, the character that David Cross plays alone is the best fish-human hybrid ever put into screen.
It's the best fish out of water.
Yeah, that alone takes it out of the top worst movies of superheroes. Come on.
Okay, Robert, what's your 3 of all time? What is at the top of the steaming pile of shit?
The 3rd worst superhero film ever made is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yikes, my guy.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
The worst superhero, and you have Guardians there, and then worst, you have it higher, Jim? I'm out. Nazario, save me. What's your 3?
My 3 is The Dark Knight.
Yikes.
Okay, guys, you're not making me Yikes. Okay, here we go. Jim.
My 3 is Infinity War Part 2, Endgame.
Can we talk about it now? I think we can.
I think now we can talk about
We
it.
can talk about it.
The highest.
Kirk Bar, just go. Just go.
I am not yikesing Isabel. Oh, can we actually get to talk about it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Infinity
Why
War
is it terrible?
Significantly better. This movie like drags a lot in the middle because it's like 3 hours long, and there's only like one movie that deserves to be two movies that deserve to be 3 and 3.5 hours long. That's Godfather and Godfather Part 2, and I don't see Michael Corleone in any of these movies. In this movie at all. I'm sorry, my bad. In this movie. Nobody cares when Natasha dies, even though it should have been Hawkeye, and they just killed off the resident woman in the cast because the men have to be sad. The Infinity War is a much better like teaming up movie of like it brings that's what we all wanted in the first place, and then Thanos wins, and it's just fantastic. And Infinity War is the perfect Avengers movie in my opinion. And then the Endgame just follows it up with a really long, drawn-out thing where time travel is like doesn't make sense, and then they like kind of make fun of Back to the Future where time travel does make sense. And then the one redeeming quality is that we don't have to deal with Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. Oh well, never mind because of Spider-Man: Far From Home. But whatever, you don't have to really deal with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man anymore because he dies. And then we get to see Ty Simpkins be sad about it at the end because, that's who we needed in this movie was Ty Simpkins. Everyone else go ahead.
Me and Robert both had it at 5, right?
Yes, that sounds right. I have to pull my list back. Yeah, I had it at 5.
Zara, did you have it on your list?
I don't have it on my list.
Okay.
But you think it's good?
No, this is not a good
We'll
movie.
wait.
I'll go ahead.
Why it's bad, and then Nazar can defend it.
I'll just start. I think the third act fight alone, when they bring everyone together, is really hokey. I think that's the moment when this whole movie actually starts to fall apart. Just because Wong shows up. Oh, you wanted more? I mean, kind of. You got like all the B tier heroes in one place. Where the hell are the people I actually care about? Waiting for Betty Ross, Liv Tyler to show up and help fight. Waiting for Thaddeus Ross to be Red Hulk. They totally blew the ending of this movie. And the first hour just drags. There's really nothing going on in the first hour. Like, once they kill Thanos, this movie's dead for at least an hour and a half. It easily could have been cut out.
Oh, look, maybe Avengers and we're sad. Ugh.
Oh, yeah, I need to watch Chris Evans be sad for 45 minutes while Paul Rudd makes dumb jokes. This is not a good movie at all.
All right, so for the IMDb listing, Robert, why is this movie...
I'm not going to dignify that. This movie is bad. And there's a few moments specifically, like if you look in that final fight, like Koho said, there is that like female team up moment, but like you really think that like Captain Marvel needs help? Like she almost 1v1s Thanos. You really think she needs help just like flying the gauntlet? Like that I appreciate what they're trying to do, but that moment is stupid and unearned. And then also, you know what other moment is stupid and another moment is stupid unearned? The I am Iron Man snap. The cheesiest, stupidest bookend to this saga. It is so dumb. First off, why, if one person can die just by holding a stone, how come his nanobots can wrap around it? The time travel doesn't make sense at all. How come old Steve is suddenly sitting on the bench? He never came back to the, like, it's ridiculous. The fact that he goes back to live his life with Peggy and then doesn't help and try to stop anything that happens in the future, like, he could have stopped like Korea or Vietnam or 9/11, like all of these things, these travesties that happen in the world. He didn't warn the past of any of it. Captain America is a villain, and this movie proves why.
Steve Rogers caused 9/11. Robert Parker.
He didn't stop it. He didn't stop it.
Okay, I just love that everybody. I just like that everybody talks about the second act and then the third act, but the first act's the slowest part of the movie. I actually like all the other ones. I'm really surprised we didn't get a Jim Green, all the women teaming up and fighting something like that.
Yeah,
so it makes it bad. I was waiting for that moment because we know that he'll feel that way. I feel like this movie is really good. I feel like Infinity War slightly better at times, but then slightly worse because the stakes don't matter in Infinity War. So it's always this like not easy thing to go with. It's definitely not one of the worst. They choose something that's amazing. And listen here, you fucking spider. I Am Iron Man is one of the most beautiful moments in the MCU. Yeah, you're just disrespectful.
Me.
Slow doesn't.
Sorry, also talk.
I agree. Agree. It doesn't mean I didn't say. Nazario, you can defend it with me. Why is Endgame actually good?
I'm not gonna defend this movie. The only reason this movie is not on my list is because I limit myself to putting only one Avengers movie on this list. I went with high hopes for this movie. I sat there and I saw the movie starting to develop a nice little story for about an hour, and then they're gonna freaking trash Back to the Future. I just walked out, never went back. I have no idea what these guys are talking about because it was not worth my time to stay in the theater to watch the ending of this. Done.
They ruined Thor.
Oh my god. I fucking love they ruined Back to the Future. That's it for me.
I paid for Hemsworth abs. There was no Hemsworth abs.
Yeah.
Okay. Who were we on? Whose was this?
That was my 3.
Okay, so Koho, what's your 2?
All right, now we're gonna finally talk about it. I think The Dark Knight is not a Batman movie, and they sold me on a Batman movie, and I got a Joker movie. Not only a Joker movie, they gave me a lousy Joker movie because Heath Ledger sucks. Heath Ledger sucks. I'm just gonna straight up say it. Heath Ledger sits here the entire time just talking like this through his teeth, like a bad Christian Harloff impression. Just, you wanna know how I got these scars? I licked the popsicle for too much time. Fuck you, Heath Ledger. You didn't deserve your goddamn Oscar. Give it to Robert Downey Jr. for Tropic Thunder that year, because Heath Ledger is trash. But if you look at the movie as a whole, it's just Nolan trying to do like Heat, and it sucks. He's trying to do every crime movie ever, which, according to Paul Oyama, makes it uninspired and unoriginal, and I actually agree with him, because this movie's trash. Batman Begins, great movie. The Dark Knight, totally fails. Dark Knight Rises, underrated, better movie. Better villain.
What Koho is to eat.
I'll hop in quick. My Dark Knight was my number 4, I believe.
No, it's my 3. It's my 3.
We all had it relatively in the same area.
That's because it's terrible, right? Like
Exactly.
the supporting performance of William Fichtner is just the worst.
I want a new fucking question.
I'm glad somebody got the bit. Okay. It's just terrible. Like the mob stuff doesn't work. Weirdly, like he tries to make like a crime caper into a Batman movie, and it just fails. It falls on its face. The opening scene is derivative and like a copycat of other movies that just does it better, specifically Heat. Let's see. The romance. Maggie Gyllenhaal is pretty bad. They also shoehorn the Two-Face crap in at the end. They easily could have done Two-Face in another movie. The last 30 minutes of this movie is all Two-Face, and it's ridiculous. The pacing of this movie is killed at the end of it.
I'll do you one better real quick. This should have been just a Two-Face movie. Take the Joker out of it entirely.
If you want to see a good Joker movie, just watch Joker. It came out last year, and it's everything that movie should have been and wasn't able to accomplish. And Two-Face was the better villain, like Koho said. You have to let him flow with development, and they decided to kill him off after like 15 minutes of being Two-Face. What a waste! And they put all their money on the Joker character, and sadly they couldn't continue it for the next one because of Heath Ledger's death. But I mean, actually, it was kind of lucky because it wasn't working, so it kind of forced them to do a better decision for the future.
Heath Ledger should have died. Nazario Montenegro 2020.
Fuck.
The movie's called The Dark Knight, and he's barely in the movie. There is no...
Yeah.
It's not as bad as the disrespect from the Lego Batman movie, but it is pretty up there. Also, the script was so weak they even couldn't get Katie Holmes to come back. I mean, come on. That's a pretty low bar to cover.
Katie Holmes is the best part of Batman Begins.
Okay.
This was on my list too, Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were
already Nazario's nonsense. Well,
nonsense.
He had good points.
I made a William
Fichtner in this, and she's the best part of Batman Begins. Maggie Gyllenhaal is just like, This is terrible. And then also no Jack Gleason. I could have used more Jack Gleason.
Yeah, I actually agree with that.
Also, just you guys have been doing well, and let's just think about Michael Caine being terrible in Michael Caine. And if I was gonna watch a Nolan movie, I'd always watch The Prestige, but this would probably be like my last place movie, like right below Dunkirk. So, I mean, I'd rather watch Insomnia than this movie, and that's saying something.
This movie gives me insomnia.
I would watch Interstellar before this.
I'm just going to put this out there. The views and thoughts of Kaleb Koho, Robert Parker, Rosario Montenegro, and Jim Green do not respect the views of Your List Sucks or Multiplex Entertainment.
They don't represent our thoughts either.
You motherfucker.
Robert Parker does not speak for the rest of us.
Exactly. Robert doesn't speak for Sonic the Hedgehog or Jim
Shut
and
up.
Nazario.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up. The Heath Ledger stuff. I'm glad you're all selling with the. That's a little rough. And Koho seeing Heat. Yeah, I don't believe that either. I guarantee he's never seen Heat. If he has, I'm blown away. This movie's fantastic. This movie's great. I think it is. I think Heath Ledger gives an amazing performance. I think Batman and him coincide in this movie very well, and I think it is the movie we needed. I think the third one is the rough one, not this one. So just as long as no one has the first one of this on there, I'm fine with. So let's move along to Robert's two. Is that right?
I think. Weirdly, I don't think this is on any of your lists, which is kind of wild because this is by far one of the worst superhero movies of all time. It's Batman Begins.
Yeah, I'm out. Peace.
This movie is terrible.
Yikes! Yikes!
What? Yeah.
Yikes.
Nazario said yikes.
Oh,
This is your no.
thank you, Nazario. These two guys
Okay.
are fucking wild.
All right, Nazario, what's your two?
My 2 is a yikes from earlier. It's Watchmen.
Yep, I had that at 9 or 7.
Okay,
one of the
that's
two.
accurate. Well, finally, let's talk about a crappy movie for once. Here we go. Tell me why it's terrible.
The comic book is perfection. And I was really excited when they decided to adapt this movie. And they've hired who I thought was a visionary, Zack Snyder. The man who did the superior version of Dawn of the Dead. The man who brought 300 to screens. I think he was going to be up to the task with adapting Watchmen. And he didn't even bring the alien octopus into the movie. That is priority one. That is, if you're a purist fan of the Watchmen comic book, you know that you need the alien octopus creature. Once you drop that, it's a shit show. Immediately. And then they start getting these weird actors to do the iconic roles. I mean, they couldn't get like a decent Michael Keaton for Dr. Manhattan, somebody with a presence and importance. They bring freaking Billy Crudup, the second guy who's never the best thing in anything he does, even if it's good. And who does they get for Night Owl 2? The number one guy who's never the best on the things he does, even if the movie is good, Patrick Wilson. It's the acting is weak in all fronts. The script doesn't really gel. They try to shove into a smaller window of time a story that transcends time. There's a whole book dedicated of Dr. Manhattan sitting on Mars thinking about history. And they take like 5 minutes to explain it. And they expect us to assume everything is okay. And the twist in the end, adding the extra death would I don't like it. It's taking gold and turning it into trash. I was so disappointed after Zack Snyder did this to me. Hopefully he gets to redeem himself in the future with the Snyder Cut.
Watchmen. I echo everything Nazario said. I am also a Snyder Cut person. Release the Snyder Cut. But the thing that he didn't mention is that there's a TV show that is far superior than this movie because they actually take the time to tell the story without telling the story in a new way with new characters. Jeremy fucking Irons is in that show. They couldn't get Jeremy fucking Irons to sniff this movie with a 10-foot pole because they got Zack Snyder directing this garbage with a garbage cast. Malin Ackerman is terrible as Silk Spectre 2, and then they relegate Carla Gugino to the corner to just be a weird old lady. It's just they butcher the source material. Fuck this movie.
They turn her into a whore, man. Come on.
Fact.
Wow, now we're slut shaming. Okay, she was sexually assaulted, but okay.
All right. Anybody up in that top corner? Always makes it rough to be on the show.
Yeah, where's Lee Schreiber?
This movie
That's my
bad. This movie's bad because I don't like this movie at all. I think I don't care what version you see. This is just one of the worst comic book movies out there. It is Snyder just being Snyder. He should just quit his job as a director and become a. Yeah, that's a fact.
I'm not putting Paul's last one on the screen, but that was good, Paul.
Yep. He's gonna. I think he should be a cinematographer. I don't think he should ever be a director. And that's it. I think this movie's bad. So, Jim, Robert, we already heard some of your viewpoint. What say you guys? Why is this movie not on your list?
Robert, I'll take this one. I haven't seen it. But go watch Carla Gugino in Son-in-Law with Pauly Shore. That's a classic.
I think Koho and Nazario hate this movie because they love the graphic novel so much, and I don't think different means bad. Because that ending would be really, really hard to... That's true. Would be really, really hard to put on film, and I think the way they actually changed it kept the moral ambiguity, which is really what's important. You keep the characters in a state of did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? It's actually really philosophically a very interesting thing to think about. Even though the ending is changed in what physically happens, the themes of the ending are still very, very present. Also,
everyone drink.
That's the first time I've said it tonight. Also, the ultimate cut where they interlace in the stuff from the Black Freighter, that those animated bits are actually incredible. This movie, when you take the bigger cuts, just make it better and better and better.
I do not have to expend extra money to appreciate a movie, Robert.
Boom.
You do not have to put the good stuff in the director's killer ultimate version, so I have to buy that for the second or third time to actually get a decent film. It should be good in theaters. If it's not, it doesn't count at all.
True.
Okay. Let's go to your number. Who is it? That's Jim. Give us your two.
Oh, my number two? It's a pretty terrible movie called Black Panther. Black Panther. So let's start out with the one good part. Chadwick Boseman is good in this. He's pretty good as the Black Panther, but that's where it ends. This movie has two different guys with the last name Whitaker playing the same character of different ages, and they're not related. That's how dumb this movie is. And the beginning of this movie is the prologue of the movie, where it takes place in Oakland and stuff. It's so forgettable that Nico Suave Regoli had to go to multiple choice for this because he thought it took place in the 70s and not the 90s. So that's how much it's just, who cares about it, really? And then really there's no other real good performances in it. Robert, Winston, what's Winston's last name?
Martin Freeman.
Winston.
Winston Duke.
Winston Duke. He has not hit his Us peak yet in this, so he's not on Apex Mountain at all. He is this is just his kind of bad starting movie, and then it's once it gets to Us, it's Apex Mountain there. The rest of them characters, most of them are better in Infinity War. Like the entirety of pretty much everybody in this, except Daniel Kaluuya, who's in this, which he was coming off of Get Out. So it's like, how could you fuck up Daniel Kaluuya coming off of Get Out? And they managed to do it because he's just there, and he's like, I'm the most loyal motherfucker up in this country of Wakanda. And then he just like randomly turns on him and is like, you know what? Rhinos fucking kill T'Challa. Go Rhinos. And it's like, oh, okay, so he's just a bad guy now because Michael B. Jordan shows up coming off of Creed all ripped and shit, and it just like cuts himself, and then he's like, well, I got a tattoo too. Look at my tattoo. So that means I'm the man now. And Daniel Kaluuya is like, fuck yeah, Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, you get my Rhinos. And then Martin Freeman's in it, and he just like is kind of like which, you know, ironic, I guess. He's just a token white guy. Like, why is he even here? We don't need him at all in this movie. Except to be wowed by, he's like, oh man, this is like so crazy that like this African country has all this stuff. Look at the Wonder Woman guy eyes. It's like, oh, who cares, Martin Freeman? And I'm done.
So I'll
That
just,
was a lot better than I thought it would. Here we go.
I'm just gonna say what everyone's thinking. It's just The Lion King. It's the best live action remake of The Lion King that they made coming out of Disney, and that's shocking because the other one had Donald Glover. Michael B. Jordan coming off of Creed with Ryan Coogler coming off of Creed. You were expecting the greatest thing to ever be made, and you got a score. And that was about it. The story's terrible. The actors are terrible. Killmonger is overrated. Killmonger should have won. That's the movie. It's terrible. It's not better than Infinity War at all.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of this movie. Currently watching the MCU as we speak, so we'll see if my opinion still is after it. But this is Lion King. This is the Lion King without songs, and shorter. I think the CGI is really rough in the last half, and that's supposed to be the big cool fight. It just doesn't pay off. Yeah, Koho is officially broken. It's about to get real worse, so we're about there. Yeah, so I don't think it's worse. I don't think it's even close to one of the worst superhero movies of all time. I just don't think it's that as good as people say it is. Nazario, Robert didn't have it on there. Why not?
I'm just gonna say it. This movie is perfect. This was nominated for a Best Picture on the Academy Awards, and the only reason these two guys cannot see it is because of their white privilege. That's it.
Robert, you want to touch that, or you want to move on?
I have other points to make, but I don't know if I can follow that. I'll go real quick. There's a lot of MCU movies where the villain is just the same thing as the hero. This is just another one of them. We've seen it in Iron Man and Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2 and Ant-Man and Doctor Strange and a bunch of others. Also, it's the CGI, like you mentioned. I was going to bring that up. And also, it's kind of in your face. Like, the end message is like, oh, death was better than bondage. Feel bad. Like, it's kind of in your face about that. And I don't really like that. It's almost Zootopia-esque in your face.
Okay.
I don't know what Zootopia deserve that.
Yeah, exactly, right? What's Zootopia do, you fuck?
Koho, is this your one? Are we on Koho's one?
Hold on 1 sec. All right, number one. What am I on? What am I
Wait,
doing?
everybody went two now already?
Everyone went all the way through two.
Yeah,
I'm the last.
All right, so my...
like Cars.
Listen, Cars is a great...
movie.
Yeah, skip me. I need to think about this.
He gets to change his list?
No, something.
Okay.
His mother's probably folding laundry. I'm not sure.
That's fair.
Robert, what's your one?
My number one worst superhero movie of all time is Avengers: Infinity War. I guess our graphics guy is doing laundry. There it is. Avengers: Infinity War was supposed to be the ultimate culmination of superhero culture, and it was anything but. this movie is such a letdown. Nazario talked a lot about how he was looking forward to movies and they let him down. This is exactly what this movie was for me, especially the ending. The ending of this movie, I was sorry. That's this movie. I'm allergic to the ending of this movie. This movie has no stakes. It really doesn't. Stakes are the biggest problem in the entire MCU, and this one epitomizes it. Yeah, exactly. No stakes. Like the fact that everybody gets dusted and you get sad for about half a second, and then you realize, oh, they'll all be back. Nothing matters in the world anymore. And that's what Infinity War beats into your brain, that nothing matters in the world anymore.
I had this at 4.
Okay.
I put this over Endgame in the list. This movie was supposed to be the promise that everybody from the MCU had been building up to. Everybody was going to be here, and they just could not handle it. They didn't give enough screen time to any character because they just squish everybody in like a sausage, and they just got like quick mentions here, like, oh, I'm here too, and oh, you remember me from this movie, and you remember me from Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm also in this movie. And it's a whole mess of a movie. And the worst part about it is they straight up lied to us. They lied to us. They told us that Infinity War was going to be the ending of the great MCU saga, and the movie ends on a goddamn cliffhanger. And when I walk out of the movie, I learned that there's going to be another movie just to get more money out of us a year later. I felt betrayed. I haven't felt this disappointed coming out of a movie since Fellowship of the Ring. I expect my experiences to be complete. And they're just going to give me half a movie.
I'm sorry.
That's it? That is bullshit.
Robert is not even paying attention to Fellowship of the Ring.
Jim, did you have this on your list?
No, I didn't, because as I the better.
Did you have this on your list, Koho?
No, because this movie is better than Endgame, and I chose Endgame was worse.
And I'm sorry, Nazario hasn't read a newspaper at all that said Infinity War is being split into 2 parts, so the movie isn't 5 hours long.
Nah,
they don't get newspapers in Panama.
They removed that. It used to be Infinity War Part 1. Now it's just Infinity War. I just assumed I was getting the whole thing.
So my biggest problem with this movie is when I go back and watch it is the stakes are wrong. It's true. It's just when it was broken for that summer, it was always like that unsure feeling, like what's going to happen to the MCU. And then Endgame comes. So if you watch it at home and you watch them back to back or like a day apart, it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. And that's the rough part about this movie. I think it's still an achievement. I think it does well. I just don't think it plays into it. It doesn't play into this. They are exactly different movies, and
it's so sloppy. This movie's so sloppy.
So yeah, I don't think it's one of the worst. It's not one of my favorites anymore. I'm hoping with this rewatch may become one of my favorites again, but it's just rough. Jim, Koho, you already said your piece, Koho. I mean, you can say a little bit more if you want, but why did this not make the list? And why do you read newspaper? Like, I like that you
I was reading newspapers pre-snap.
Oh, okay.
After the snap, it changed. It changed everything.
Gotcha.
I mean, what other way you get your news, man? I pay like $0.25 per week, and it all showed up on my door every day.
But you weren't reading it, apparently. I mean.
All right, Jim. Anything?
No, I already said, like, this is the better one. And even though everyone except Nazario apparently knew that there was another movie coming, like everyone, the ending was still great, and like you didn't know if it was gonna just how they were gonna beat Thanos, but it's like no, they lose to Thanos, and that's the whole point of everyone getting dusted. And yeah, we knew they were gonna come back in Endgame, which is why Endgame is like kind of pointless for 2 hours because it's like we know what's happening, we know what's going on. But with Infinity War, you kind of didn't know exactly where they were going to go with it. You just kind of knew that it was going to be more than what was going to happen in this one movie. So and plus, like the what are they called? The goons, the Black Hand, the Black Order, the whatever they're called. They're pretty awesome in this. And
Black Order.
Yeah, and then the one that at the beginning with the with Squidward, and he's like fucking awesome. He goes out like a bitch but like he's fucking awesome for his whole time. Like, yeah. So great villains all around in that movie.
All right, we're gonna go back to Koho here. Koho, what's your one?
So if you watch my Nerdgasm debate with Cody, I already said there's nothing special about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse because no one, I repeat, no one likes a movie about a talking fucking pig.
It has a talking pig in it, Cody.
It has a talking pig in it, and no one wants to see that. It's almost as bad as No Country for Old Men. Boring as fuck. But Into the Spider-Verse, you have it just... It's like the Lego Batman movie, except on dial up to 11. I couldn't understand what was happening. The animation makes you dizzy. The voice cast is awful. Jake Johnson, the worst Spider-Man we've ever had on screen. Pretty easy. Why didn't they get Tobey Maguire? He's obviously the best Spider-Man we've ever had.
Exactly.
And then, Chris Pine's in this for 30 seconds. Wish he was in it longer. Just killed him. Cool. Thanks. Miles Morales, unlikable. He's just kind of annoying and whiny.
I wonder why you say that.
He's just kind of whiny all the way through the movie. Mahershala Ali, too small of a part. Should have killed Miles in the first 20 minutes. Bet about Mahershala Ali. Would have been a better movie. On the whole, I'll say it again. There is nothing special about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I really want to take away that bit that you started doing of talking into your mic. Who else had this? I think everybody had this, right?
I had 5.
You had it
Mine
at
was
5? Go ahead.
way back at 9. Yeah.
Mine was at
Go ahead.
7.
Okay, Nazario, Jim, Robert, go.
Can I just first say this is basically just a really flashy commercial for Jordans that Miles has in it that they then sold after this movie, and that the movie kind of just sucks.
Why are you cutting off Nazario? Nazario goes first.
God damn it! Go ahead, Nazario. But just keep that in mind about the shoe commercial.
Did you just skip me because I'm Latino, you white motherfucker?
I'm Latino as well. Racist.
The problem with this movie is that they just wanted to introduce a new character to make a new more like world-friendly Spider-Man. But I think they picked the wrong one because they tried to go with Miles, but Miles wasn't really that interesting of a character. I feel the movie wastes its best character, Penny Parker and the SPDR droid. They are so interesting that the second they show up on screen, that's all you want to see. You want to see how she built this robot, how she can go inside of it, how can it work like a spider machine and transform all the time. But they gave them like 30 seconds of the movie. And the scene where they introduce it has to be split between the Nicolas Cage Spider-Man and the pig? How the hell is that fair? That is just a lame idea. And again, it's a recurring theme. People trying to replace people without letting us, thinking we're not going to notice. They give us everything from the original Spider-Man movie from Sam Raimi. The scene, the kiss, the iconography. They even put the Coca-Cola sign in that world so we know that is the real world. And then they don't get Tobey Maguire. Don't cheap out on us, Sonic. Come on. Be decent.
Jim, anything else you want to say besides shoes?
And the whole Doc Ock is just terrible in this movie. Like,
Wonder why you would say that.
She's over the top for no reason, and she's terrible. And this movie doesn't even get good until the credits start. All the stars should have won the Oscar. I listened to Shallow once in my car in that movie, and that song sucks. All the stars is the real part of this movie that deserves any kind of recognition. Other than that, the movie part, all that sucks. The credits is when this movie really begins.
All the stars isn't in this movie. That's
all the stars from Black Panther.
Whatever.
Robert.
Some things are meant to be in their own individual medium. Like sitcoms work because they're sitcoms, they work on TV. Comics work because they're in print form and you can read them and it works like panels. trying to directly take a comic book and put it onto the screen just fails completely. The visual style of this movie, it just makes you want to puke. Not because it's bad animation, just because like you can't follow what's happening. It's like you're watching a 3D movie without wearing 3D glasses. It's basically one giant meme. It takes me out of it every time when those three other Spider-Man come along. When Cage, Penny Parker, and Peter Porker, like it just takes you out of it. You just can't really appreciate like a good Spider-Man movie. They just had to throw in these memeing like jokey characters. It really ruins the dynamic between Miles and his white savior, which I really liked that dynamic. And the villain is just ridiculous. Like I said, it's kind of wild just to take a comic book and put it on the screen. And even though Liev Schreiber is a good actor, Kingpin does not work in this movie at all.
But it has Liev Schreiber, so that's a plus.
It does have Liev Schreiber.
We're all going to make everything about race tonight. This is fantastic. It's exactly what I wanted it to become. Jim, what's your one?
My number one is.
Are we at one, right?
We didn't do Nazario's one.
Oh,
Nazario, what's your one? What's your one?
Okay.
Yeah, I skipped over you
I'm
because
scared about this.
My number one.
Oh, it's Batman.
The worst Batman film put on screen.
Yeah.
Batman Begins. Let's start off with the false advertising. Batman Begins promises a movie about Batman's story. You have enough material to make a 3-hour movie out of this. But no, they make half a movie with Batman and half a movie about Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon Begins. Nobody wants to see that. It's the same problem I have with the TV show Better Call Saul, because it's half Saul and half Mike Emetro. It's just lying to people. The movie, every time that Christian Bale is not on screen, just drags. Because nobody cares about what's happening with Gary Oldman's character. And then they instead of picking a great villain for the main role, they go to this, like, they look into the rogues gallery for one of the lesser known guy called Ra's al Ghul, just because he is, let's say it, Asian, and they wanted that China market. So they put it in for like 2 minutes, and then because they cannot even keep to that, they kill him off and say, no, the real Ra's al Ghul was this white guy all along. The disrespect is palpable. And it disgusts me. You want to see a good origin story for Batman? Watch the flashbacks from Batman versus Superman.
Didn't Robert have this at like 2?
I had this at 2, yeah. So this movie wastes a lot of side characters as well. Like, it wastes Joe Chill. They don't dive into how Batman's parents died at all, besides that, like, okay, Christian Bale wants to kill him because he's a bad fella and he's morally complex. Like, that's just stupid. They waste the Falcone family. You could have done a whole movie about Carmine Falcone, about the Falcone like history. That's a really rich like mob backstory. That would have been a really interesting movie. But instead they decide to just make it all about Ra's al Ghul because they can't even pronounce race right. Like, that's just, there's so many things wrong with this movie. You don't even see Batman in the costume for the first hour and a half of this movie. What is that? We signed up to see a Batman movie, not a Christian Bale being gone out of Gotham for 7 years. Like, that's not the point of the movie that we signed up for. I don't care about his training with Ra's al Ghul. I don't give a shit. I want to see him being Batman. I want to see Batman stuff, and there's not enough Batman stuff in this movie.
That's it, right? Thank God. Cool. Sound like a bunch of spoiled children that didn't get what they wanted. I didn't get Batman the whole time. I wanted Batman all the time. This is my favorite superhero movie of all time. This is number one, clear as day, no question asked. Number one of all time.
Strong takes, Cody.
I think this is the best portrayal of Batman. The story that breaks him down. I think, yes, I'm not a big fan of what they did with the villain, but at the end of the day, I still like the movie for what it is. It sets up everything. Do the classic cliche. You wouldn't get this at The Dark Knight. I just think this is the perfect like standalone origin story of Batman. That's why I don't like proceed any more Batman origin stories, because I think this one tells it quite well. The only problem that I really have with this movie is Katie Holmes, and they kind of solved that in the second one, so I'm kind of okay with it. I know the script was so bad that they couldn't get Katie Holmes for the second one, but I'm glad with Maggie Gyllenhaal. So Batman Begins. So for you two to have it at 1 and 2 of the worst superhero movies of all time, that's just one of the worst takes I've ever heard.
One more thing. The thing with Batman, you get to make the vehicles look like bats. Did the tumbler look like a bat to you?
A fat bat? Yeah, I'm dealing with it.
They call him Big Bad Boy.
I was going to make a joke about doing that.
So, Jim, Koho, make it quick. But tell me why this movie is.
We're singing songs, Cody. Everything you said is right. This movie's awesome. The only one issue I have about this movie is that they never call Liam Neeson a man in black in this movie. What the hell is up with that? He's never called that in this movie, for the record.
Right.
Other than that, whatever Cody said is just he's preaching to the choir here. I mean, not these guys that had it 1 and 2, but here, yeah. You know.
If you're wanting a Green Lantern shirt, you like Batman Begins the most out of everything tonight. Great movie. Y'all are just spoiled brats. This movie's perfect.
Oh, and hey, they added a plus to it. You know, we don't need to hear about Batman's parents dying. We saw it with like Val Kilmer. And
exactly.
If you see it with Val Kilmer, you don't need to see it again.
Val Kilmer's Batman Forever, best version of the just saying.
You almost sold it.
You're muted, Mr. Newberry.
Cody, we can't hear you. Also, Christian Bale's voice is terrible.
You couldn't get that full sentence out of your mouth, Code, like it died at the end. Okay. All right, Jim, close it out. What's one?
My number one is the not really movie. It's just a soundtrack. Guardians of the Galaxy, made by the problematic James Gunn.
Stop it right now. Stop it right now. Movie only. Movie only.
This movie just takes Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec, who is awesome, and was like, what if he had abs and he was in space? And it's like, this is literally just Andy Dwyer, and now April is green. This is kind of just like Parks and Rec, but the movie, and it's in space. It has like 5 villains, but also no villains, because it's like Michael Rooker's a bad guy, but not really. And then Ronan the Accuser's a bad guy, but he also isn't, because he doesn't do anything until the last 10 minutes of the movie. And Nebula's also a bad guy, but not really, because she like turns good at the. And then Gamora's also a bad guy, but not really, because she turns good in this movie. And then the like prison, those are bad guys, but not really, because they help him break. So like this movie has like just a complete villain. Oh, and then Thanos is in it for like 5 minutes, and he's like, "Don't make me. You're a boy."
I will.
And then there's the thing where he's like, "Don't call me boy. Oh, I'm Ronan." And yeah, the soundtrack is really awesome, and like that's the one good part. And then who plays what's the one guy's name? The Collector.
John C. Reilly. Oh,
the Collector's
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro. He's just super fucking weird as the Collector. The Collector, all of that part is just weird, and then you get the god damn it, I can't think of words. The exposition, is that right? Exposition dump, where he's just like, here's a slideshow. Let's open the orb up, and here's a slideshow PowerPoint about the Infinity Stones that you're supposed to care about in like 9 years when you see Infinity War, but not right now because they're not important at all, right? Really, unless you're watching in credit scenes. So this movie sucks, and it's a soundtrack. The soundtrack's good.
Who else had Guardians? Anybody?
I did. It was my number 3, I believe, or 4.
Robert.
It's my 3, I think.
Go ahead.
Bob the Knob.
You can't do that to me before I'm going to talk. Yeah, I had it at 3. Mainly for a lot of the reasons that Jim said. The villains is just the worst part of this movie. It's like James Gunn really wanted to make Star Wars, but then nobody would give him let him make Star Wars. So he was like, fine, then I'm going to make this movie, and it's going to be balls to the wall, but it's going to be Star Wars. And he made like just a Star Wars ripoff, and it's not good. The visuals are a lot of CGI soup, and it doesn't really work. Bradley Cooper as Rocket is just one of the most weird things ever. Like the editing is very off if you rewatch it. Like Bradley Cooper's voice doesn't really sync up with Rocket's like mouth moves. Groot is a heartless character. It's a character that really actually takes me out of the movie, especially once you realize that like you can just hear Vin Diesel talking. It doesn't he doesn't really become Groot. You're just watching Vin Diesel pretend to be a tree, and that's not really entertaining. The better version is definitely Guardians 2. That's where you actually get a lot more of the family dynamic. But yeah, the characters really are just lackluster. They're not unique. Every single one of them is a ripoff. Like Chris Pratt's Han Solo and Zoe Saldana is like Leia. Like it's just every single thing is a ripoff of a better sci-fi movie.
Shut up. I've heard enough from both of you. This is disrespectful. This is my favorite MCU movie of all time. It is in my top 5 of comic book movies. I think this movie is genius. It's the biggest risk the MCU ever took, and it paid off in spades. It's literally fantastic. It's the reason I hate the second one so much. The second one should be on your list. The second one's one of the worst. This one is one of the best.
But whatever, Cody.
A forced dad, a dad that gets shown up at one point that you're supposed to care about that connection, but yeah, I couldn't disagree more. This is one of the worst takes I've ever heard in my life, and this is when Drax was actually a character instead of the second one where he's just like a punchline. Oh, I don't even know what character I am anymore. Koho and Nazaria, you didn't have this on your list, is that correct?
Nope.
No, I didn't have.
All right, so tell me why, just real quick, why these guys are insane.
I'll just make it quick. This movie's so funny and super well made, and they're dumb for putting this this high.
It's funny because it's literally Parks and Rec.
It is Parks and Rec in space. Why is that a problem?
I think everybody overlooked the fact that this movie features Howard the Duck, one of the greatest characters from Marvel ever. If it only had as good as development for that character as the original Howard the Duck movie, then this would be the number 1 MCU movie. Since it has like a very limited amount of screen time, I'll put it on the top 3.
Hey, Cody, one more point about why this movie is bad. It has Howard the Duck in it at the end. Howard the Duck makes an appearance in this movie.
And Cosmo the fucking space dog.
Okay, guys, here we go. So, thank God this is over. Thanks for everybody playing along. It was a great time. I am never doing this again. What?
Just won the chat.
Okay. Okay, so this is your overall top 10 list of the worst superhero movies ever made. Number 10, Captain America Winter Soldier. Number 9, Watchmen. Number 8, Black Panther. Number 7, Logan. Number 6, Infinity War. Number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 4, Batman Begins. Number 3, Endgame. Number 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And number 1, The Dark Knight. The overall grade for the list tonight, I haven't given this out since 1987, and that's a Z. This is a Z list if I've ever seen it. It is one of the worst takes out there. The winner of this list, with the best takes on the worst superhero movies of all time, is Kaleb Koho. Is a C-. Definitely Megamind on there. Quality take on worst. Watchmen, Deadpool, Sky High. Black Panther being a little high, but you literally nailed the challenge of worst superhero movies, and I appreciate you. It's not as good as it could have been because there's some real good ones that you put up there, but the stinkers are there. It comes in second place is Nazario. You get a D+. It's about as close as you can get to an overall grade. Watchmen at 2, that helped you a lot, but then you had a lot of good ones. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle was just too low. If it was higher, you would have won. Third place goes to Jim Green. Jim Green, you get a big fat F. A Z almost. Z. Just too many good movies on that list. Furious 7, you know. The last place goes to Robert Parker. Robert Parker definitely gets the Z. If this was best, we'd be having a different conversation, but this was clearly worse and you did not understand the concept at all. So, what an idiot. Okay. Overall, the best to play along with the game, I give it to Paul. The person who deserves an A is 100% Nazario.
Yeah.
He leaned into it. He continued to play. Guys, I really appreciate you guys for playing along. It could have been disastrously for me, with everybody saying, nope, I'm not doing that. I had a lot of fun. Upcoming weeks, these ones are actually the list. It's ensemble movies. Again, if you don't know what that means, don't submit a list. Next, the following week is overrated 80s. I'm looking for somebody that grew up with these movies a little closer to be the host. I'm looking for like a Kirk or a Nazario to be like one of those people. Maybe a Brian Michaels. I just want somebody that's going to roast them a little bit better than I will be able to because I didn't grow up in it. 22nd, space movies. That's not Star Trek or Star Wars. It's movies involving space. So it should be an interesting topic. Then to close out April, we got war movies. So best war movies. If The Patriot doesn't make it on your list, then don't send it.
Facts.
Yes, Jim.
When in May, when we can actually go outside, can we do best movies about being outside?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Ones that make you feel like
No.
no.
The moment that we can go outside, we have to do best movies that take place in a single location.
That's right. All right, guys, submit me your list to have on the show. Have a great night. See you next week.
Well, I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown. I amuse you.
God. Eat shit. How's that? Eat shit. Eat shit. Eat shit.
Smug smile.
Definitely eat shit.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
You can't handle the truth.
Chris Evans.